Hey everybody, welcome to TrailSage, and this week I wanted to share a few clips from a live stream that I participated in last week on winter riding. Hosted by Brian and Erin from B&E-MTB, I was also joined by Johnnie U from Mountain Bike Q&A, JT from the Dusty Dutchman, and Mia from the Women's Mountain Bike Network. We had a blast, and I'll leave a link to the full-length video down below. Also, be sure to check out everyone else's page because these guys are all awesome content creators. I'll put all their information down below too. Well, having said that, here's some excerpts from that night.
Now, you ride fat bike quite a bit too, don't you, Sage? Like, you actually ride it for fun.
I ride that thing all year round, and it's such a different experience. And I think the common misconception that most people make is that, oh, fat bikes, you know, that's a lot of suspension. It's actually not. It's the tires they're like giant balloons. And so what ends up happening is if you don't have suspension, you just end up bouncing around the trail. The tire does not soak up anything. It actually enhances whatever is on the trail. So I think in the snow, the fat bike is amazing, right? Because one of the things that I love about snow riding is it takes your regular trail that may be rocky and it smooths it all out. It becomes like a roller coaster almost. It's completely flat. So an actual fat bike with no suspension, like a true fat bike, does really well in those conditions. You know, when the snow melts, that's when you really want that suspension because that front fork will soak up some of the bounce out of the tires.
Wow.
Yeah, 100%.
So do you guys have like trails that shut down in the winter due to any of like the conditions, or because they're so well groomed, you know, either JT or Sage, like do the trails just stay open and you can go anywhere, or do you have to change what trail system you're going to depending on the year?
You want to go first?
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
So great question, Erin. And there aren't trails that actually close, but the biggest problem that we have here in PA is the damage that occurs to the trails. So what happens is they don't close any of the trails, but what you'll find is there are a lot of irresponsible riders that go out when you have freeze thaw, right? So when the snow gets slushy and it just creates these massive ruts and holes in the trail. And so while they don't close the trails, because a lot of the trails are multi-use around here, I kind of wish that people would just have a little bit more common sense, because the same people that rut out those trails are the same people that don't show up on trail work days. So
Yes.
It's kind of like, okay, you know, glad you had fun, but you just ruined it for everybody else, you know? So it kind of, if you're new to riding, like, yeah, I guess you have a little bit of excuse, but as you start to ride more, ask around, right? And figure out when the appropriate time is. I know when it gets to freeze thaw, like toward the end of fall, toward the end of winter, you got to get out early in the morning, like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, catch that freeze. Because once it starts to thaw, it just turns to mush, and then you just ruin the trail for everybody.
No, not to jump in for JT, answered any of this too, but see, it's not just an experience as well, but different territories. I know we've talked about it a couple times, Sage, because Sage is close enough to us. We're talking about doing some riding. We've ridden together before. But in South Jersey, it's very sandy soil, I guess, to where everyone comes to us in the winter because, or during rainstorms. You can ride in the pouring rain. You can ride anytime because the water is kind of drains and you don't leave really that bad of ruts. Now, there are some places that will, but I don't think about freeze thaw where I am. I don't think about, even though it's cold, but it's just because of the type of dirt we have. And sand. Let's say, do you bundle up as much? Because I know your temperatures are, I guess, closer to ours. We do get the cold times, but not quite as bad. But what do you wear?
Winter cycling is literally about layers, right? And everyone's personality is completely different. You know, some people can deal with cold really well, and some people can't. It's crazy, maybe, but like I'll wear shorts into the teens and probably only do pants unless it's under the teens and the snow is heavy. But the top is where I dress more appropriately, I guess. So I have like a thermal, like Under Armour, and then I'll wear like a flannel that has like a liner in it. But in general, the rule of thumb is if you're a little bit cold at the start, then that's perfect. Now, I don't mean like cold like you're shivering, but I mean like just like, ooh, that's a little bit cold. That's the perfect outfit, because because within 15 minutes you're sweating. And so
oh my God. Yeah.
if you have layers, that's the best way. You can start to remove layers. And so I think what a lot of people out here do is they wear a windbreaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the perfect one that you can actually remove, pack it down, and just like throw it into your pocket. So if you're just getting into winter riding, don't feel like you need special gear. But if you really get into winter riding, then yeah, you're gonna need special shoes, but until then, get a nice pair of thermal socks and put a toe warmer in there, 2 if you need it. And that's how you start. And then if it's like, yeah, this really was fun, you do like an hour or whatever.
That's crazy.
And then go get yourself a pair of good winter cycling shoes. Get yourself a proper winter top, but you don't need any of that to start. And that's the nice thing.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I just went out earlier. I had this sweatshirt on. I had my windbreaker. I had my thick gloves. My wife had like a thing covering her ears. And I'm like, I'm going to be in the podcast later talking about winter riding. She's like, good, because it's freaking cold. And I was like, they're not going to say that.
But I totally get it. Like even what Johnny was saying with the ears. I have the same problem. My ears get really cold. So like I have this thing that I'll like put over them and then the helmet on the top when it's really bad. And I'm like, I just need that or I'll get an earache the whole time. So like
I'm actually the same. Yeah.
And then like I try to do the thing where it's like, okay, I start off a little cold because I know I'm gonna warm up. And then it's like 45 minutes into the ride and I'm like, man, I wish I would really warm up. Like my lungs hurt because I'm still breathing in cold. When is it not gonna feel cold anymore?
Yeah.
So Erin, if you're interested in getting into winter riding, there are a lot of tips that you can utilize. And one of them is, I think someone mentioned the gaiter. Those are fantastic, right? The gaiter. But the best trick that I can tell you is take that gaiter, take your gloves, take your shoes, and while you're driving to the trailhead, put them on top of the heater. Like put your defrost on and shove all that stuff on top of the heater. And then when you get to the trailhead, you slap that sucker on and oh my God, it's so nice.
I do that with my heart rate button. That's the worst thing when it's cold. Putting on a cold heart rate monitor. You don't do that? Oh, Johnny's just making faces up there, but
Johnny, that's what your doctor does when you go there. They check your heart
I just have my watch that does it. Got the Garmin.
Have to go around, and they are the coldest thing, and that's the worst feeling ever. Putting that cold thing around your chest when you're.
Nope.
Yep. Tune in Tokyo, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. You can cut glass with those things.
Oh, that's so funny.
The off season is absolutely critical for me. I remember when I was a younger man, I wasn't taking time off and I wasn't doing recovery rides. I wouldn't take like a week or 2 off. And by the time the summer hit, my legs I couldn't produce power. You go through this, it's called dead legs, and it's different from bonking. It's different from bonking. You get on a ride. And I remember I was in Virginia and it was the dead of summer. I mean, it was like Johnny, like you were saying, super hot, super humid. And I got to this top of the climb and I wasn't bonked. I could breathe, I could do everything, but my legs could not produce power. And I turned to my buddy, Dan, I said, I don't know what to do. Like I cannot move anymore. And that was the wake up call that I needed. That trip ended up being a disaster for me because once your leg, you go through that fatigue, the dead legs, you were forced to be off the bike and then you've kind of ruined your season. So the way that I've kind of constructed how I ride and consequently run, as you were asking about, is I really do try and take like 2 weeks off. And I try and use the winter because it's harder to get bigger rides. I build that 2 weeks in and it sucks. It sucks to, first of all, it sucks to take the 2 weeks because I love being outside and doing things, but it's also really hard to get started again. But I just keep thinking about that trip in Virginia. And I don't want that to happen. Like I don't race, but like, I really enjoy riding hard and I love going as far as I want without having to worry about being, exhausted or whatever. And to be able to enjoy that stuff, I need to give my body the respect that it deserves. And for me, the off season is absolutely critical.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. That's great. And like you do have that recovery you need to do. And my setup. When I was actually training for the races and stuff, it was, again, during the week, you had 2 days usually of either soft recovery, something like that, usually not completely off, but light, but then once a month. So it would be a 3-week on. The 4th week was a recovery week. Yeah. And then, so that was kind of the rotation. So you had a couple days, but then that week, and it's amazing when you come back after that week of recovery, it's incredible how much stronger you are. So actually being off makes you stronger. So it was a really,
Brian,
go ahead anymore.
Brian, that's exactly, I mean, I don't want to get into the science and bore everybody to death, but like that recovery period is actually when your muscles heal, right? So if you think about it in like weightlifting terms, right? Like you like weightlift and then you do like a max out, right? You're purposely tearing your muscles. Well, if you don't give your muscles the time to heal, then that tear never heals. And so you can't actually get stronger. So using that time, that week off, right, to let your muscle heal, you actually get stronger. And that's what's crazy, right? And that's a little bit different than the 2 weeks off or the 3 weeks off that you take at the end. That's not healing so much as just overall healing, just mentally, the whole body healing. But like building in recovery weeks during your on season, however you say it, that's actually when you get stronger. I'm so glad that you brought that up.
That's great.
Lesson learned.
Until next time. Thank you all.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, he's good.
I like it, balloons. I got balloons.